I would like to hear from Miss Amy Butler.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna just I've got a couple questions, but what Christine just said leads into one of them. Like she said, we all have different opinions. Some of us are super strongly opinionated. Some of us don't even know what our opinions are because we've been listening to other people. But how do you give wise counsel? Because I want to be wise counsel to my kids. I want to be wise counsel to friends. And when friends are in a marriage that's struggling, or when they're going through a divorce, or after they're recently divorced, I want to be able to give them wise counsel in those conversations without just portraying, okay, well, this is what's good for me. So I know that this is what's good for you. And to take like myself out of it, but to really listen to where they are and give the advice that's appropriate for them. Because I know so many acquaintances that because they've been divorced, they hate men and marriage is bad, especially if they're recently divorced. And so if then you're a married person having a problem, if you talk to them, you need a divorce too. The whole world needs a divorce. And then the other people, which you guys have probably experienced, like Leanne said, I think it was Leanne, she couldn't talk to her network about her divorce that she was going through because they couldn't relate. So how do you take yourself out of it and give wise counsel to those people around you? Okay, Tori.
Okay. Oh, I think
Sorry.
Leanne and I tied.
You're it.
So I think with that, the thing that I always come back to when I'm talking to people is there is safety in whatever choice they choose. I feel like when people come to me, they want me to make the decision for them. And so if I just say to them, like, you can't make a wrong move, like, you can't make a mistake that will change everything forever. Like, you are going to take the next step. If it turns into a path that you don't like, you have the option to get out of it. So it's like just giving that freedom of like, you can't make a mistake. It is impossible to make a mistake. It's all going to work out one way or the other. Then that gives them the freedom to actually choose the thing that they want to choose, but they're trying to get other people to tell them, is it good or bad idea? Yeah. So that's, yeah.
And sometimes people are looking for permission. They're looking for that permission to do. And sometimes, not even like I'm not divorced, but in other decisions, I'll find myself, I need to find enough people who say that this is okay. So then when I do it, you said it was a good idea too.
Yeah. I think Brene Brown calls it polling. Like when she's insecure about a decision, she'll like poll everybody. Like, yeah.
And I keep polling until I get the answer I want. And then
That's great.
Leanne, did you have your hand raised?
I did. I think that Tori, what you said is right on. But for me as well is actually holding space and listening to what that person is actually saying, so that I can then identify what their biggest fear is, and then saying to them, "You're just scared of XYZ," and then taking that next step is going to change things. So a lot of people are scared of the change. They're scared of any change happening. They want to keep everything as easy as possible, but that there is change going to happen. So if someone, comes to me, or I'm coaching someone and they're like, I don't want to make the decision. What's the fear behind that? Is it that it will change, or is it the work that you think is going to come after? Because all of that is going to happen. So you can either stay where you are and accept what is happening, or you make the decision to make a change. Those are for me, those are the two things: either acceptance or making the decision to change.
And you brought up a good point about like doing the work, right? Because whether you do the work after or you do the work before, what I have found in my friends that are divorced is that there's work that needs to be done within both of those people that were involved in that relationship. And if they don't do that work, they're taking all that baggage into the next relationship. So I think there's value in taking a look at doing the work. You can't make the other person do the work, but there's value in taking a look at doing the work while you're in the relationship, instead of going and just like starting all over again with someone else. If the other person's willing to do work. Sometimes they're not. And sometimes I know people who, and close to me, who've been married, and they can do all the work they want to do, and they're not compatible. It's not the right place to be, right?
Yep.
But I think that answer is different for everybody. Okay, so Sabrina had her hand raised, and then
I would like to just actually see if anyone had anything to add to Purat, who's commenting.
So I agree with like the envisioning of the life you can build, and to think about like one of the things that I've learned as a coach is that a lot of what we think are facts are actually our thoughts. And so there are, we have to really break down like what's the fact and what is our thought. So like I'm getting divorced, that's a fact, right? But your thought about it is it's going to ruin my life. Nobody's ever going to talk to me. I will never find love again. Someone else could have the thought of like, this is the best thing that I could possibly be doing. It is the beginning of the rest of my incredible life. And the way that you approach those thoughts is going to impact how you're feeling, and then the actions that you take, and then the results that you get. So if you have an idea of like, if you're envisioning that life that you want, and you think like, if I want to have, the life that I envision for myself is a marriage that's a partnership that is, where I feel seen and heard, where I see and hear my partner, where, whatever it is, like, well, what are the thoughts and beliefs that I'm going to need to get me to that place? And maybe I don't, so then if you can at least identify them or start to identify them, then you can begin to work towards those thoughts. You may not have them right now, and it may be a step-by-step process. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I love tapping, because it helps drill down in the body to figuring out like what are those limiting beliefs that you have, because we all have them, and then processing them so that you can let them go. But I think really like, my advice to people is like, let's look at what you're thinking, and is it true? Because half the time it's not true. No, it's not true that if you go through a divorce, it's going to ruin your life. It's not true that, if you are divorced and your ex-husband is just a complete and utter jerk, that he's like the ball and chain that you're going to carry around with you forever. You can make choices so that he's not constantly influencing your life forever. Like, you got to look at, what are the facts and what are your thoughts about those facts, and how can you shift your thoughts? That's the only thing you can control. You can't control what's happening to you. You can only control how you react to them. And so you have to be really aware of your thoughts and your feelings, and whether they're serving you. And if they're not serving you, then you need to make different choices. And nobody can, like, I may decide that, I may have a thought and I decide that it serves me because it is aligned with my beliefs. Someone else might look at that thought and be like, no way, that is not a thought that I want to cultivate. Okay, that's fine, because that's my path and it's not yours. That's great. You just have to figure out what yours is.
Okay, Leanne.
Yes, I wanted back to Perrette, whatever, what Christine was really talking about with the thoughts. It's huge. And it's also identifying, if you want to envision a new life and build a new life, that you actually believe that it's possible. So you can have all of these thoughts and you can have all of these dreams, and you can say, oh, one day I want this, or one day I want that, but you have to really dig deep and support yourself that it's an actual possibility to create that. Because that's the difference. Just like Christine was saying, I really lean into thoughts and how we act from our thoughts. We act from our thoughts. If they're unintentional thoughts, then we're not aware of what we're doing. If they're intentional thoughts, then we are aware of what we're doing, but we're acting from all of it. So if we start to really create that, get very clear on what you want to envision, and then realize that it is a possibility, and then what are the next steps to get me there? I think that's a great comment. Thank you, Perrette, so much. I hope we were.
Christine, did you have something to add on that comment?
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, yes. Everything Leanne said.
Everyone's name disappears when the comment is up there, and so I'm trying to remember. Elisa, you're the one.
Yeah, it was me. I love everything that everyone's saying. So juicy. The one thing I would add, to go back to your original question, Amy, about, when people come to you, is to pull them out of the victim hole. Because our tendency, if you're the one who wants to get a divorce, you're going to selectively only look for all the reasons that this person is the devil and they are doing this to you and this to you and this to you, because you feel like you need that to shore up your case that you deserve this divorce that you want. but that puts you in this really low energetic state of being a victim to this person. And that's just not a powerful state to go create the divorce that you want and the next life that you want and the next steps. So even in the process of them deciding, it's important to show them, look, you're selectively filtering here. Maybe this person isn't the devil. All that matters is you want something better for yourself. You've recognized that you are worthy of something better than this. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. You don't need to build up all this evidence. That's enough right there. And that's a much more powerful position to go create that next life.
Taking ownership of that. Taking ownership, like if that's what you want, like taking ownership of it instead of being the victim, because then if you go and you do get the divorce and that doesn't work out great and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, then like, well, you made me. Well, no, nobody made you do that. But, okay, I have another question if I can.
Yeah.
So if I am, if I'm friends with both people in the couple and they get divorced, do I have to pick sides? Can I remain friends with both of them? Like, how does that work?
I say yes. You get to maintain. This is also your path in your life. If you like each individual person, you don't get to pick sides. And if the friend has hard feelings about that, they've got to work on some stuff, because it isn't your decision, right? Your decision is to be friends with everyone, and that's what you get to choose. Now, if it's toxic on one side or the other, then obviously, make a choice. But it's sometimes it's hard to support both if it's a toxic thing. But if it's if it's something that you like both people equally and it's collective, then I would say stay friends with both. I'm just going to give an example. I mean, I have a lot of friends, and we have partners, we have exes, we all get together, we celebrate things together, we do barbecues together. It can be very collective. It does not have to be totally separate. And that is not something that I experienced when I lived or knew of on the East Coast. I moved to the West Coast, and I had all this around me. So it's possible, and it's beautiful. I mean, it really is to be able to have both sides. And then if they're willing to get together and socialize together down the road, it's actually very full.
Tori.
So I think it's really easy for the people in the divorce to only see what the person did instead of seeing that person as a person still. And I know I was definitely guilty of that in my own divorce. Like, I was, pissed off at any family member that was talking to my ex, and he was pretty close with my family. So, it's understandable. I was that person that was very resentful that anybody would see him as a person and not just what he did. And so I think maybe if somebody had pointed that out to me, I could have gotten over that a lot faster than I did. And, I'm not evolved enough to say that I'm completely over it. Like, I still get a twinge, even if people ask me about him. But we're good now. And he is a person who is deserving of friends. And I hope the best for him. Like, I really want him to have those connections still. And so maybe bringing that up to somebody who is mad at you for staying friends with both, and just being like, you are not in a place right now where you can see this person as a person and not just what they did. But I am. Like, they are still a person to me and not just what they've done.
I appreciate the honesty. Sabrina.
I want to add on to what Tori said and kind of dig in a little deeper on that since we're here. So it's all fine and dandy to say to somebody, yeah, looking back now, everything's fine. I made that mistake in the past, but I'm telling you now that don't do that. Is there a good amount of time where a person is allowed to be angry or upset or pissed or have those feelings that Tori was saying? What is a good amount of time? Are they bad for having those feelings? Because those are bound to bubble up. So what's the solution when you're in it? You're listening to someone like Tori, and you're just like, whatever, girl, like you don't even understand. What's the advice like to someone who's in the mud right now?
You have to have your emotions. You have to go through the feeling of all of it. You can't, if you push it away, you're seeing Christine and you're getting that emotion, tapping into it. So our bodies just hold on to emotion and they don't go away. If you go, I'm really mad, but I'm going to just let that go. You don't let it go. It's energy. If there's energy there and your body stores it and it sits with you. So it might not come out right now. 3 months from now, when your 3-year-old like throws spaghetti on the wall, you're losing your mind because that is triggering something. So I always say, feel what you're feeling. You get to decide how long that is. It could be a day, it could be a week, but the longer it goes on, you're attaching yourself to that, and that's your emotional vehicle. So then you need to start evaluating and not living in that victim and living in that mindset of it. If it goes on too long, and we can say a week, we can say a month, or we can say 2 days. I mean, it's all very specific to each person. But you have to have those feelings and emotions. You got to be angry. You can be angry at yourself. You can be angry at your ex. You can be angry at everything. You can be sad. You have to go through those stages and feel them. Feel it. The grief that comes towards the end. The forgiveness that you have to give yourself. The feeling of a failure. The feeling of all of those things. Those are all real, and you should have them. You get to decide how long that is. And that's where support and help really comes in, or being coached to say, are you still really angry, or are you just scared now that you have to make another decision? So they get kind of blended, but definitely feeling them.
Yeah, I always say you got to feel them to heal them. And I think that, again, also thinking about the thoughts that go with them, because your thoughts create your feelings. So if you are, and I really love to do like a thought download where you just, and Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, has something she calls the morning pages, where you do it when you get up in the morning. I will confess that I don't get to do that all the time, but I don't know that, I think it's great if you can do it in the morning, but you can do it anytime. Just like take 15 minutes and write stream of consciousness about whatever it is that you're thinking and feeling, and then kind of dissect them. Because if you are in this victim mode of thanks, Lucy. If you're in this victim mode of like, it was such a traumatic experience and it's going to be with me forever, that is not going to serve you. You certainly want to acknowledge whatever the trauma is and what the emotions are. Absolutely. You can't paper over those, but you need to feel them. And then you need to start to think about like, how can I think about this in a different way? Like, this was really traumatic. Like my divorce, and your thought might be, it was traumatic, it's going to be with me for the rest of my life. Or you could start to think about, it as, this experience has taught me so much about my inner strength and resilience. And maybe you don't totally believe that yet, but so you keep working on it, and you got to feel it in your body, and you got to tap it out. And, you have to go through it's work, but you start to move yourself forward, because I totally agree with Leanne that everyone is on their own time clock, and nobody can tell you how long you grieve, but you also need to recognize that when it starts to get in the way of you moving forward with your life, then that's when you need to think about, I need to find support for this. I need someone to help me process this so that I can start to let it go.